In this video, we will implement a recursive function in JavaScript. In the last video, we defined this recursive factorial function. This factorial function had two conditions, a stop condition and a continue condition. Each condition had a certain output. For the stop condition, the output was simply 1. For the continue condition, the output included a recursive call. Another way we looked at that recursive function was by thinking of different scenarios. There were two scenarios in a recursive factorial function. The first scenario was a stop scenario, and the second scenario was the continue scenario. To define the output of our second scenario, we defined a recursive call. So how can we implement these scenarios in JavaScript? That is, how can we program our recursive factorial function in JavaScript? To begin, we go to the REPL.it website, and we pick JavaScript as a language that we'll be using. Now we'll start writing JavaScript code. We declare our function using the following syntax. The word function, and then the name of our function, which is fact, followed by a parentheses, and inside the parentheses is our parameter n. This JavaScript syntax is similar to the mathematical notation we used in part 1. Inside the curly brackets, we will declare our stop and continue conditions, as well as all the outputs triggered when a condition is met. Anything inside these curly brackets is considered part of the function. After declaring the function, we will write the stop scenario. We do that by writing an if statement with the conditional expression inside parentheses next to the keyword if. In this case, we define our conditional test as n equals 1. In this case, the double equal sign checks numerical equality. If this conditional test is true, the block of code inside the if statement will be executed. So now we will define the output of this function given a certain condition is true. To do that, we write return 1. This means that the function will output or return a value of 1. Now let's check the stop scenario. To run the function, I will go down outside of the function's last curly bracket and I'll type fact parentheses 1. This is how we will run or call a function in JavaScript. Now I'll click the run button, which will run our JavaScript program. And we see that the output is 1, as expected. If I change the parameter to a number 2, I get an output of undefined. That is also expected because I never wrote a condition to handle any scenario other than when n is 1. After setting the conditional for the stop scenario, we will write the code that will define the output when this condition is true. Now let's define our continue scenario. We will write another if statement below the first if statement we wrote earlier. For this statement, we will type the following conditional expression. N is greater than 1. After setting the conditional for the continue scenario, we will write the code that will define the output when this condition is true. In this case, we type return n times fact parentheses n minus 1. Okay, let's check our function again by changing the input parameter to 4. And we run the program again by clicking the run button, and as expected, we see the output is 24. Now let's improve our function. You'll notice that if I pass in a negative integer, I get a value of undefined. We can update our function to handle values less than 1. To do that, we will change the stop conditional expression to n less than 2. And for the conditional expression for the continue condition, we change the conditional expression to n greater than or equal to 2. Now, if we run the fact function with a parameter of -1, we get a value of 1 in return, which is expected. So that was an example of how to program a recursive function in JavaScript. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.